Hi, and welcome to Matt Holman Talks Mental Health, the podcast that talks mental health with normal people within society. Today, I have the great pleasure of introducing a friend of mine, David Clare, to the conversation. As I will always do in these podcasts, I'll introduce David from how I see him from my perspective, and then I'm going to ask David to please introduce yourself. So David and I have known each other for a number of years through a mutual love of the Business Travel Association or business travel community globally. David has been fundamental in raising awareness around travel and what's going on and supporting the travel industry through many different events. And I'll let him explain the work that he does today. But also David's been a real instrumental driver in changing the narrative around travel well-being. 2 years ago, I was very happy to participate in a conference with David that David had organized to talk for the first time about traveler well-being and its importance and how we need to make sure we're aware of the impact that travel has on our mental health, in particular from my perspective. So he's a great guy. I see a lot of his social side on social media, which is fantastic. I even think there's a pub in his garden, which is just incredible. And he enjoys golf, so there's a mutual love there too. So David, welcome. Lovely to see you. Introduce yourself for us.
Hi, Matt, and thank you for having me on your podcast. It's a challenging time at the moment. Any opportunity we can get on to have a conversation, see people. I wish we were doing this in the pub, face to face, but it's how we are now, so we have to get on with it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, mental health has been very important to me. I've had my own mental health issues, which I'm happy to talk about later on. Which is why when we first started talking about doing mental health and even doing the seminar a couple of years ago, I was so keen to do it. And one of the things that really struck me when we did that conference was that somebody turned up, had two people turn up and said, "Look, Dave, I'm here to support you. You know, I don't really think this is really relevant to me, but you know, I'm here to support you." And at the end of the day, they came and said, "I cannot tell you how many notes I've made, how many things I've written down here to take back to my office." So even the people who don't think it is relevant to them or important to them, it is, which is why I'm so passionate about it. I do apologise for those of you who are watching this on video. My dog is in the window and he might occasionally get up and have a wander around. But those of you who listen to the podcast, ignore that bit of the conversation.
Yeah, I'll do the voiceover of, "And now the dog is moving."
You first. So, Matt, you know, it's very important to me, and I'm delighted. And the work that you do, you know, you and I have done a few things together, and you know, so pleased with what you do. And hey, as you said, it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah, brilliant. So talk about your past, David. Let's talk about where you've come from, the kind of work you've been involved with, and where you are now in your workplace.
Oh dear. Well, I mean, it's a long time ago. I don't want to go too far back, but suffice to say, you know, my first real job out of school, I actually worked in Ministry of Defence.
Oh, yeah.
I was in the RP Navy department, looking after all things naval. It was just after the Falklands War, and part of my remit, I think I can say this, although I've signed the Official Secrets Act, so I'm not going into too much detail. I had to prepare the questions for Prime Minister's question time. So you not believe this, but the Prime Minister knows what they're going to be asked. So we would get the questions. I would then have to go and look for the files and find out. And a lot of the stuff I did was around the sinking of the Belgrano and such like. So, but I have to admit, I lasted 4 weeks. I'm not somebody sitting there looking at files and reporting. So, and then I went into work for a financial services. So I did mortgages for a few years and worked there. Sadly, I had a motor accident, and unfortunately somebody died in that accident. And that had my first experience of discovering mental health, because I developed post-traumatic stress disorder and locked myself away, and had a real challenging 6 months of my life. And after that, it was a session that I thought, right, you know, I've got to get back on track. So I went and worked at the Evening Standard. For those of you who remember, the 9:38, 38, 38, 9:38, 38. So if you rang up, chances I picked the phone up and said, "Hello, what would you like to play? So what are you selling? What are you renting? And what job are you trying to recruit for?" So yeah, that was a fun part. And then I ended up luckily in the world of travel and been here for 22 years.
Wow, amazing. And a little bit about your roles in travel. What have you been doing?
Well, I originally joined looking after a leisure magazine, and then we launched 2 business travel titles, which I've been involved in. So it was great to establish them and a lot of the events around them. So I did that, and was there with the company I worked for just over 20 years. And then a couple of years ago, after much encouragement from many people, decided that I would take the plunge and come and work for myself. I've got to tell you, I'm so glad I did it 2 years ago and not 1 year ago, because it might have been a totally different situation. But you know, I'm all about networking. I'm all about meeting people. So when I launched the Business Travel Network, that was to get people together to do the networking. And so, as you can imagine, at the moment, I struggle with that because I can't do what I want to do. I feel like I'm treading water, but we will be back and we will be doing it. And I'm looking forward to that. And more recently, I've been involved, obviously, working with the Business Travel Association, which has been a real godsend, and I've loved doing that. It's a great association, working with Clive Ratt and Julian and Eva. It's been a bit of a breath of fresh air, to be honest, during what's been a really tough time.
Brilliant. And we're going to talk about that as well a little bit later. So thank you for sharing your career, and what a diverse career you've had in many different ways, different things and experiences. I love that, because often we don't know this about each other. We see what we see in front of us. We see the person that we recognize from the role you're in at the moment, but we don't always know some of that past. And I'm not reading CVs to people, but you're a living CV. You're a living story. This is why for me, this podcast is so critical, because it's your opportunity to tell people a bit of your story, which they wouldn't know. And I'm sure anybody listening from the Travel Association or from the travel industry knows Dave Clare, doesn't necessarily know that much about you. So let's listen to more about you. Your experience of mental health, David, you've already talked a little bit about one of those impacts, and a serious impact when post-traumatic stress becomes a reality. Can you tell us a little bit more about sort of your journey with mental health? You're passionate about it now, which I love that, and I applaud that, and I want us to continue that conversation. But talk a little bit more about your life journey with mental health, if that's okay.
Yeah, as I said, back in those days when I had that accident, and that was my first. I didn't realise, obviously, it was diagnosed by the doctors, and obviously I was put into medication and such like, and had various aspects to bring me through that. And then subsequent to that, I'm also a compulsive gambler. I've not gambled for 21 years now. So 19th of June 1997 was my last bet. But once they're doing that as well, gave me an insight into it. And I was quite heavily involved in Gamblers Anonymous. So I used to go to the meetings. I used to man the helpline. So Sunday nights would be my time of doing the Gamblers Anonymous helpline from 8 o'clock on a Sunday evening till 8 o'clock in the morning. And boy, did you get some phone calls then of people ringing you up, coming out of casinos, having just lost their houses. So I had real insight to that. But obviously with my own gambling, it affected me. I was lucky. I mean, at the time, I know the date because it was a year before I got married. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, I grabbed her and said, I promise you I'm going to get this sorted. I'll get hold of this, we'll sort it out. And she stuck by me. And, I came through that situation. I have to keep testing myself, to make sure I do remember that I am a compulsive gambler. So things like that. But I can go to a race meeting now. I can sit down and I can enjoy it. I can watch it for what it is, because I've had to develop my own mental ability to do that. 20 years ago, it would have been a totally different situation. So that taught me an awful lot. And, when you go into a Gamblers Anonymous meeting, we're given our Bible to look at. And the first few pages have 20 questions where you have to ask yourself, and they say, if you answer yes to 7 of these questions, then you are a compulsive gambler. Well, I answered yes to 19 of them.
Wow.
And the only one I didn't answer to was, would you consider harming yourself or others to satisfy your gambling? And no, because I'm not that sort of person, but I'm also a bit of a coward. So so that was a real part of my life. And I'm forever grateful for going to those meetings, because who knows what would have happened if I hadn't.
Wow, that's so amazing for you to say that, and I really do genuinely appreciate that. One thing that's becoming very apparent from all of these recordings is the uniqueness of everybody's stories. But you own that story, Dave, and I think that's power to you. The vulnerability that comes with talking about it is actually a strength, and I think that's just kudos to you for being able to talk about it openly. And of course, it's been a long challenge for you, and I guess it's never been an easy ride all the way through that. But well done. That's just an incredible sort of story, and for many people who probably don't know that about you, it will be an eye opener around this is the world that we're in.
Yeah, I mean it's. I mean, you remember the wellbeing conferences that I spoke about it then to people, and it's something that I've not really hidden, because it's something that's happened to me. I've dealt with it. I've handled it. I remember when I joined my old company, they sent me a message to say, you're joining the company in next week, but we've actually been invited to Sandown Park by the Hong Kong Tourism Board for a racing afternoon. And I had to be honest, I'm really sorry, I can't do this, because at the time I was still dealing with it, and it was very early stages. And even going back, I was at the Evening Standard when it was at the height of my gambling. And I remember my whole reason I had to go out and see people. So it ended up with Pauline, my wife. She would give me the money that I would then go out and have lunch or meet clients. I'd then have to come back. Not only did I do expenses at the Evening Standard, but I did expenses for Pauline just to prove that I wasn't gambling. And, and that was something I was prepared to do, because I had to show to her that, I wasn't gambling, because massive trust. I'd let her down. I'd lied to her, I'd cheated, cheated on the way that I'd been, say I'm on the way to see you. Pauline lived in Leighton Buzzard, I lived in Epsom, and I'd say I'm stuck on the motorway. Well, I wasn't. I was stuck in a bookmaker's. So winning her support was massive to me, and that's one thing that I will be eternally grateful for, because she did stick by me, and together we came through it. She did Gammon On, which is for partners of gamblers, and often on a Sunday night she would take a phone call from a partner of a gambler and she would help them. So it's it's all down to me. It's all my fault, but we've done it together. So it's an important part of my life.
It touches on such a valuable piece to this, which is about support. You've obviously got somebody that is a rock for you in terms of, knows your let's not call it a weakness, but you know what I mean, the sort of the threat and the risks that associate themselves to that. Yet they're there, ever present. And I can only say the same about my wife, through the things I've been through. And this isn't, as I always say, it's not about me, but it's that sort of, we have uniqueness in our stories, but if we didn't have strong people stood next to us, often things can be difficult. So
Absolutely.
So amazing. She's obviously an angel herself, in terms of.
Yeah, I have to laugh because a lot of my mates call her the Rock, and it's quite interesting.
Oh, really?
It's interesting. Yeah.
Does she know that as well?
I mean, unfortunately, we went to Spain last year, a few of us, and we had a drink, and they sent her a recorded message to say, "Pauline, we're looking after Dave, but you're the Rock." So, yeah, don't worry, there are a few people laughing.
That's good. That's good. It's always a fear that something gets exposed on it and somebody listens to it, and it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this. Amazing. You know what? I just total respect for you, Dave. It's just something that's so important to recognise, and that self-awareness element. I talk about it a lot as mental health. The biggest thing for most of us is we're not always aware that things are going wrong. And sometimes it takes that intervention in some way to say.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I had my most recent major mental health episode. I think it's probably about 9 years ago now, and exactly the same thing. Paulie knew something wasn't right, and people didn't believe. Was one of these guys that just carried on doing it, and ended up with me being carted off the Priory and sitting down and talking to this consultant I had a 1 hour session, and I was there for about 5 hours, and it was amazing. And I still remember this day he kept saying to me, "If I let you go home, are you going to be all right?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "No, are you going to be all right?" Now I hold my hands up. I've never been one person, dare I say it, to consider the suicide angle. I think maybe because I'm a coward. But I was, mentally I was in a complete mess. But that was one thing he said to me, and I'll never forget when he said to me, depression is an illness of the strong. And that's what I'd done. I'd kept fighting it. In the end, the fuse went pop, and that was it. And and once again, it was a tough time in my life. I was on medication. I had loads of CBT therapy, and I took myself away from the spotlight a little bit and just concentrated on me and my family and what I had to do. And I still have episodes now. I still have moments, and it's all about coping. This coping mechanisms and how I deal with things. And as you said, we are 24-hour humans, and I don't always get it. I don't always get it right, and sometimes I get it very, very badly wrong. And a lot of the time, what we're doing, and you and I now, a lot of this is an act. We are here. We're showmen. We're here. We might not be here. We might not be in the right mood for doing it, and that's what we do. And I think that's finding that balance. And that's when I have my conversations with you occasionally, just to give myself a bit of a boost. And that's why it's so important. And especially at the moment, there are so many people who are, going through really tough times. I consider myself quite lucky because I have got a bit of an income still coming in. I'm healthy. I've got my family. I consider myself lucky, but there's some people who aren't. And I think that's, what we have to deal with.
Yeah, we should never undervalue or underestimate the impact on ourselves too. And that's such an important part of self-care. But you're right, there are lots of people that are struggling. The purpose of this podcast is simple. We're trying to reach out to say, it's okay. You know, you said it in your opening, David, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to talk about this stuff. And because of all the things you're sharing, Dave, I don't see you any differently than just a mate. I'm not going to make judgments on those because that's your experiences. And I want everybody to recognize that. That's what this is really, you know, trying to support in this conversation, is to say, you know, let's all come together. Let's talk about these things. We're human creatures that need connection. Today is hard, you know. Well, actually, today's the first day of the lockdown restrictions being changed a little bit, but that doesn't mean that everything's going back to normal, you know. So it's really important. I want to move on to where you're at now, Dave, and talk of a couple of things, because obviously COVID came. We're all living through this new experience. Can't travel, can't meet up with people. How are you doing? Can you hear me? Dave, can you hear me?
No, Matt, you've really dropped out. I need
Oh, did I?
another 50p in the meter
I'm
for the
sorry.
last 30 seconds. It's been a bit Norman Collier.
For the podcast,
Now I'm
this is
showing
gonna
my
be
age.
really awkward because people will have left, probably. And oh my gosh, that's really bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that is the wonder. That is the wonder of this wonderful technology and internet stability. Humans
Exactly
tend
right.
to have
And
more.
that's why we need to get back out and meet each other.
Oh my days! Have you ever seen more reason for it than this? Exactly this point. So apologies for anybody that was lost during the journey of that conversation. I was going along the lines of when COVID hit, Dave. Obviously, lockdown 1 started in March. That changed the dynamic of everything we were doing with the travel industry, what you were doing with the travel industry, of course, all those events that were being planned, all of a sudden, no longer. How has it been from your perspective? You've done a lot. So talk about all the stuff that's been going on, how you felt about the reality of this and what you've done to try and support others, because you've done loads, and I really do respect that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, let's be honest, Matt. I've had my own challenges. You know, I've had my moments where I've cried. You know, it's been tough at times, and especially having your own business. You know, I'm grateful that the BTA kept me employed, and that was part of the reason when, you know, Clive and the girls came up with the idea of let's look at doing something where we can help people, which is where we started the BTA Cares program. Be honest with you, it was a blank sheet of paper. It's like, well, let's just get out, let's try and offer some help. There's people out there who are struggling, who are being furloughed, who are being made redundant. It's pretty lonely, and we just wanted to try and create something. So the original concept was just to offer a bit of, you know, help people writing CVs, LinkedIn, even, you know, looking after themselves on their own fitness, and even, as you know, you joined us a few times, on their well-being. But I have to say, it took off as a bit of a beast. I mean, we had lots and lots and lots of feedback, lots of great people joining. And even now, you know, we're looking up to Christmas. We do on a Monday. It's good to talk, and we just get people to come in a room and talk.
Yeah.
You know, we sort of backed away from it as a BJ because we weren't sure people would join, because we were sitting there and, you know, did they feel a bit awkward? So we sort of backed away. And, you know, our good friend Penny Worthy, she you know, chairs them. But you can see the comments on LinkedIn that just having somewhere to go and talk and chat to people is just massive. And it's a shame we've had to do it, but we've done it. We have, and, you know, working with the guys and gals at the BTA, you know, it's given us a great lot of satisfaction that we've managed to help. And if we help one person feels better from doing something, then, you know, mission accomplished. And I'm not sure what the plans are moving forwards, but we shall see. But it's been important, and, you know, the private messages I get from people and talking to them about, actually, it's just helped people. You know, 2 or 3 people have said, I know I got that job because I attended that webinar. That to me is job done. You know, that's it. I can, you know, feel great. So it has been challenging, and I've had some difficult conversations with people. And as I said, I'm not perfect. I'm not like you. I'm not a mental health first aid. I'm not a Samaritan. I have no training in this. What I do have is experience. Because I can say I've been there, done that, and I've got the T-shirt, and actually I've got the sweatshirt, the hoodie, and probably a 3-piece suit. So yeah, but yeah. So it's been interesting. It's been challenging, but it's also been satisfying.
And that's it. You know, I think a couple of things I wanted to bring into this thought from what you've just said is, you have this wonderful thing called empathy and compassion, and those are skills that are great to have. You know, they're the ones that when somebody's struggling, you can't always fix their problems, but you can offer some solutions, some thoughts around. And that's exactly what you've done with the BTA Cares program, with yourself and the others, of course, who are involved. And I know you'll recognize, and you have already recognized, those people that have been instrumental in launching and bringing that to reality. And that's important. But you made a clear or a key point in there, which was you've had a couple of people who said without that, they don't think they would have got to that next step, that next role, that next position. And that just shows you how valuable this content is. You said about the plan. I don't know what the plan looks like. You know what? I don't think any of us know what the plan looks like, right? Yeah. This podcast was launched on the 19th of November. We're on the 2nd of December recording this. I know it's not going out on the 2nd of December, but within a very short space of time, we got lots of people talking about mental health. And I love this thought. It's exactly the same with what you're doing with BTA Cares, as far as I see it from my perspective outside, is you're engaging conversation. You're helping people not to feel isolated and alone. And in an industry, in particular in business travel, of course, where, you know, the sad reality is 1 in 2 people losing their jobs. It's just such a tragedy. And yet nobody's brought it upon themselves. Nobody's made this reality for themselves. It's all been created by a machine, or by something, not machine, but something totally outside of all of our control. We can't control, but what we can do is connect, stay connected. And that maybe BTA Cares goes on for years, but it might be that things are back to
right.
I don't know.
Absolutely right. And I think, you know, you've said that, the fact that, you know, it's just the fact that, you know, this isn't a human thing. You know, people have lost their jobs because of the situation, not because of their ability. And right. I think that's the thing we've tried to get through to people is, you know, that, you know, it has been tough. You know, when it first kicked off, I went and worked at Tesco's. Right. I got a job stuck because I thought, well, I'm not going to get any income coming in. What's going to happen? And luckily, with the BTA work, and to be honest with you, I wasn't, you know, Tesco, 3 nights working at Tesco's was a bit of a burden on me. And I had a good friend of mine who was very seriously ill with COVID, right. And it frightened the life out of me. And I thought, do you know what? I don't want to put myself in the firing line. So, but, you know, I've now applied to become a NHS volunteer on the vaccination to see if I can do that. Because if I can do something, then, you know, it gives me something else to do. So, it's tough, but I think one thing I've said when we've had these discussions with people is it's not you, it's the situation. Yeah. And I know that's hard to hear because people think, yeah, I know, but why didn't X, Y, Z go, or why didn't they go? And it's me. It is difficult. And I'm no HR expert either. So if we can just help people, then that's what we're going to do.
Brilliant. And let's continue the conversations. Let's continue the work. As long as there's one person that attends a session, it's a session that's worth putting on, isn't it? And keep those conversations flowing. So you've just recently as well launched into another venture. So for anybody listening on this podcast, you may not yet, but David has a voice for radio. And talk to us.
Not the face, go on, I'll say it. Not the face of radio, as those watching can say it.
I'd never say that. My first podcast was with a friend of mine who also does voiceovers things, and so voice for radio. So David, tell us a bit about what's going on with the radio channel.
Do you know what? It's a bit of fun. So it was launched back in March. It was originally launched as Cabin Crew Radio. So it was all the cabin crew who were no longer flying. They created this radio station just to get them in to have a conversation, play some music for them. It sort of expanded, and now because of what's happened in the travel industry, it's now travel radio. It's actually travel.radio. So I got to talk to the guys there, and they've given me like an hour slot on a Friday lunchtime to come in and play some of my music and chat to some of my friends. I have to say, it's the most stressful thing I've done during this lockdown, because sitting talking to yourself on a microphone and trying to relate as though you're talking to everybody out there listening to you, it's incredibly hard, but it's a lot of fun, and it's just something else to do. Do you know what? I'm going back to doing a bit of football refereeing, which obviously, you know, there I am, put myself in the firing line, but just trying to keep myself going, mentally going, my mind going. And so if I can do anything, and if I'll have a bit of fun on a Friday lunchtime and play some of my music and talk to some of my friends, then, you know, until we can get out and start seeing each other, then who knows, maybe we'll have the Travel.radio Roadshow and I'll be there at Blackpool Beach with 5,000 people in front of me and playing it, but that's a long way off just yet.
I'm thinking next industry conference, there's definitely Travel.radio happening, isn't there? You know, I think the new event, business travel events in London or wherever, there's going to be a Dave Clare near you. DJ, is it DJ Dave? Have you got a DJ name, Dave?
I've got a few names apparently. I'm not sure they're all printable on this podcast on the air, but and do you know what? There are a few people out there who actually are DJs, and it's interesting that, you know, a few of them contacted me. So I think maybe we can do something. We can get a load of. I mean, when I was DJing properly, and this is another thing. I mean, you know, I've been very lucky, but it was like looking behind me, getting the records out, putting them on, checking them all out, and I was lucky. I mean, when Wimbledon won the FA Cup, I DJ'd for them on the pitch at Plough Lanes. I did their celebration party. That was a night and a half, I've got to tell you.
Ah, so you have, you're into it. You know what you're doing. You really do. I didn't even know that. I just thought that that's fascinating.
It was a few
You
years
have
ago.
Vinnie Jones and Dennis Wise up on stage with you, did you?
Oh, I carried them out at the end of the night. To be honest, they had a really good night. But it was the Wimbledon manager was Bobby Gordon. He came over to me and said, "Here's all my telegrams." Anybody know what a telegram is? All the telegrams used to be sent to the winning manager, and it was either the away dressing room or the home or the east or west dressing room. And he gave me this wad of telegrams to look after them. Like, oh, the FA Cup was literally there, and I had all these telegrams, and I had all these drunken footballers in front of me. It was bonkers. Great night.
What a story. Amazing. And no doubt you've got a million of those stories floating around.
Yeah, some I can't print.
So not to load you with more stress then. So you've gone back to refereeing. Is that men's football, youth football? What?
A bit of both, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the kids, the men. So I was quite a serious referee back in the day. So I got to quite a high level, and unfortunately my knees and things like that went against me. So I've just gone back to it, and I love it. I'm unfortunately I don't take much back chat, but I'm big and horrible, so I can get away with it. But it's something I love. It's I'm not there to be the enemy. I'm there to help, and it's amazing. Even now when I watch football, how some of these 15-year-old kids think they can talk to me. I wouldn't let them do it in the street. They're not going to do it on the football pitch. But
exactly.
Yeah. But I love that. I get a lot of stick on Twitter from various people. So, I'm normally a stickler of defender for referees. Some things I can't defend, but I challenge anybody to come and referee a football match and see how you deal with it.
Amazing. Oh wow, there you go. So we've been through a whole journey, Dave. We
have. We've not even spoke about golf.
Well, we didn't even get there, did we? Do you want to talk about golf? How's the golf? Are you back in golf?
Well, hopefully this weekend I might get out, but looking forward to getting back out.
Bit wintry now. If that snow doesn't come, your coloured balls, coloured golf balls, that is, of course, referring to, of course. You know what? This is coming to the end. We've been together for some time now, and so we do a bit of a wrap up. And I just want to sort of say, from my perspective, huge thank you to you on behalf of every person that you've managed to support through the Business Travel Association BTA Cares program, through the work you do in the radio station, through the work that you just do as a genuinely decent bloke, and a really nice fella. I'm so pleased to have really got to know you over the last couple of years in a different way than just work, and I think that's such an important part of this. Your story is incredible, Dave, and I really mean that, and that's so, I'm so thankful that you shared things that I didn't even know, and why would I have known unless you told me? So thank you, and I hope, and I'm sure people listening to this will be inspired by your words, thinking about the way that you focus on where we are, what's going on, what's going to happen. So it's really important. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. I'll throw it over to you. Any final words you want to say, closing out?
Your timing is impeccable. My wife just got back from doing a Christmas shop, and the dog's going to go mad in a minute. But so the timing is, but Matt, I think I go back to what you've always taught me. It's okay not to be okay. And I talk quite openly about my mental health and what I've been through. Maybe sometimes it's too much, but it's what I am. And if as you just said earlier on, if one person can get a bit of help or a bit of advice, or just get something out of the conversation, then that's achieved. And for what you're doing as well as part of Simply Healthy Solutions, I applaud you. And I can't wait till we're back in a bar having. I know you've not drunk for 3 months, so good on you. I've got a pub in my back garden. It's a little bit difficult, but
even talk about that.
I look forward to to seeing you in person and having a drink and having some more good times. And the good times will be back.
Oh, 100%. That's without doubt. They will be back. We can all have good times now still, but you're right. That face-to-face, in-person, human to human, we'd never replace that. We will never be able to replace that. David, thank you so much. As I always do at the end of these sessions, I just want to say, anybody listening, if you are struggling, if you do need extra support or help, please always know there's somebody out there to talk to. There's lots of people who care about you. You're not on your own. It is such an important part of thinking about talking to people when we're struggling. Please do. There's a sign behind me. You can't see it on the podcast, but on the video, you'll be able to see it. It says, we need to talk about mental health. That's what this is all about. David's been talking about his mental health. If you want to talk to somebody in a safe environment, you can always contact me or contact Samaritans. Samaritans is free to call on 116 123, and Samaritans is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. just if you're worried about anything, always know there's a nice friendly voice at the end of a phone that will be there to listen to whatever's worrying you. Not there to fix it, not there to tell you what to do, just there to listen and support you. So on that, I just want to say a huge thank you again, Dave. Many thanks. We'll do the wave and we'll leave. And I think your dog's just about to go for the door.
It's just going to go mad now. The front door's just open. Timing's perfect.
It's been amazing. Much love to you.
Thanks, Matt.
Stay safe. Look after yourself. See you soon.
And you too.